In the trial of two men accused in a deadly shootout tonight outside Halftime Liquors in October of 2022. The jury started deliberating around 3 this afternoon. The verdicts were announced in court about 3 hours later. Joseph Walker and Tamalon Williams are accused of firing shots in the crowded Halftime Liquors parking lot. Innocent bystander Demario Murray was killed and 8 other people were shot but survived. Court records show Walker and Williams were found guilty of firearm charges and not guilty of murder. Now, where they differed, Williams was found guilty of attempted second-degree murder, and Walker was found guilty of a lesser charge of attempted manslaughter. State Attorney Jack Campbell said, quote, "Neither of these men shot the bullet that killed Demario Murray. However, the jury found both were responsible for being part of the overall gunfight," end quote. It's not clear when Williams and Walker will be sentenced. They're the latest of 4 defendants to be convicted in the deadly shootout.